course, Dube Ncube is quite a veteran of KwaZulu-Natal politics. She's served various MEC portfolios over the years. She's also a former diplomat. After 6 o'clock, I'll be speaking to political analyst Lukhona Mnguni about what he sees as her strengths and what she might bring to the role of Premier in KwaZulu-Natal. But now, let's move to this story. We are 6 days away from the 10th anniversary of the Marikana massacre. That, of course, that moment when police gunned down 34 striking miners. In the days leading up to that horrific massacre, 10 people had been murdered, among them security guards. So as we run up to the 10th anniversary, let's not forget that blood had already been shed in this time. It was a very difficult and stressful time. And parties involved in litigation around the Marikana massacre, it continues nearly 10 years on, but they've got until the end of this month to settle outstanding matters. And Solicitor General Fedzizani Pandelani says there have been agreements on most of the matters. Our reporter Moloko Moloto joins us for more on this. Moloko, it's astonishing when we realize that it's nearly a decade since the Marikana massacre. What a horrific day, and a very bloody build-up to that awful day. Tell us about the agreements the Solicitor General says have been reached, because the state has already paid out quite a lot to family members, those affected by the massacre.
Well, good evening, Sally. Indeed, actually, it was on this day in 2012, on the 10th of August, when the strike by the miners started, and we saw about 2 days later people were already killed. And it started with the police officers and it went on to security guards, but also the mine workers who were not on strike, and they were targeted as sellouts. And we, of course, saw on the 16th that the police then decided to move in and kill those who were on strike. 34 of them died, as you correctly said. Now, it is important to mention that what the Solicitor General was outlining today has nothing to do with the 10 people who were killed prior to the massacre. It involves strictly those who were killed and those who were injured and their relatives. Now, up to so far, the Solicitor General says about 175 million rand has been paid, but that is for the loss of income to the families of the deceased, the 34. And part of that 175 million rand went to pay the... You remember, immediately after the massacre, police went in to arrest nearly 300 people. Now, they first appeared in Garankuwa, many of them a magistrate's court. So that was a wrongful arrest, largely. Now, a lot of them have since, they couldn't be linked. Now, those people have sued the state. 175 million rand went partly to pay them and families of the deceased. Of course, ultimately there were about 21 people who had to face the murder charges of the 10. Of those 21, others have since died. We're now left with 17. That matter is still before the courts. Now, the issue that is outstanding, of course, the Solicitor General, and I tried to push him to say specifically what are the agreements on and what do you agree on and what do you not agree on. He doesn't want to give a breakdown. He's simply saying you actually have a situation where there are damages, and he's categorizing them into two. The first damage, he says, it is about what he calls special damages, wherein, for instance, the miners possibly were injured and they are no longer able to work and they have lost income, and some of them have been undergoing medical treatment and all that. And where there's evidence, really, they don't have issues there, they will pay. But the second category is about what he calls, I think it's natural damages, something like that. And he's saying in that case, actually, it's about the actual pain that those who were injured, and I suppose those who died, their families are saying they endured some form of pain, and they're saying the state must compensate. And that is where they don't agree, actually, because they are saying, how do you prove and all that? But the matter is actually before court, however, not necessarily in the form of litigation. They call it judicial management. Essentially, they are negotiating, but the deputy judge president is overseeing that whole project. Ultimately, if they don't agree, the court will then have to take a decision-making order. But importantly, the Solicitor General is saying this particular negotiation does not involve President Cyril Ramaphosa. You'd remember that he's actually,
it's a
separate matter. We can talk about it. But this is purely about the government departments that were implicated. Let's listen to the Solicitor General as he was outlining this.
Not be able to entertain any such matter because it is not on our records. So what is on record now, what is before court, that which remains our focal point is the 48 matters that I'm referring to, which ought to have started by the 9th of July until the end of August, half of which I'm indicating we have been able to reach settlement. Half of which I'm indicating as we sit here, by the time that you get out of here, probably 12 or 15 might have settled, and the rest will have to, in fact, undergo the process that is judicial management.
And let's listen to how lawyers for the miners have responded.
All that they are seeking to do is to do away with a narrative that is out there that says it's the state that pulled the trigger. And I'm saying it's a shame simply because all of this happens 10 years on. Just imagine the lives of those that have been affected by the massacre, those that have not been compensated with bodies, with bullets riddled in their bodies. I mean, it cannot be. So we are seeking to have justice out of the courts. I heard that it was the court, he says it was the court that called for these dates to be allocated. It was as a result of the pressure that we requested the courts to allocate us the 19th up until the 25th of August to deal with the Marikana matters. So we're making progress, and I'm saying those matters, in my view, we should have settled everything in the past week, but we haven't been able to.
All right, and that has to be wrapped up by the end of the month. Let's speak now about Cyril Ramaphosa. He's long been accused by various opposition parties of playing a pivotal role in calling for the police to take action on that day. Some say he should face manslaughter charges. What is the court action against him? What exactly is he being accused of? And is it going to reach court?
Well, it's before court already. But importantly, we should remind our viewers that at the time, Ramaphosa was not in government. He was not even deputy president of the country. However, he was deputy president of the ANC. He had just been elected. And he was a shareholder at Lonmin. And people would remember that he sent an email saying concomitant action needed to be taken. And that has been interpreted to say actually kill. Now, obviously, there was a commission of inquiry, and it ended, he couldn't find him of any wrongdoing. And the lawyers now and the miners are now suing him personally. As I said, that negotiation that's happening with Solicitor General, he's not cited there. But separately, the lawyers are suing him and Sibanye Stillwater, which ultimately bought Lonmin Mine for over 1 billion rand. Of course, the matter was supposed to have started last year, I think in August. Judge Lamont, who was supposed to preside over that matter, had to recuse himself because it was discovered that he actually had shares in Sibanye. So they needed to get another presiding officer. The matter will possibly start anytime soon.
Okay, so that could take a lot longer. All right, thank you so much for wrapping that up so comprehensively. That's our reporter, Moloko Moloto.